The White House press briefing room buzzed with the usual energy. Journalists tapped away on laptops, camera crews adjusted their angles, and the murmured conversations of seasoned political reporters floated across the room. At precisely 2 p.m., the door at the back opened and Karoline Leavitt stepped to the podium with her usual poised grace. Karoline, now the White House press secretary under President Donald Trump, had become a household name. Known for her sharp wit and unwavering dedication, she approached the podium in her signature navy blue blazer. Yet today felt different. Outside, a soft snowfall blanketed the Capitol, adding an unusual stillness to the air. As the cameras flashed, she offered a warm smile to the press corps. "Good afternoon," she began. "I'll start by addressing the President's upcoming State of the Union address." Her voice, crisp and clear, filled the room as she outlined key policy points on economic recovery and national security. The back and forth with journalists followed the usual rhythm, probing questions and polished responses. But then something unusual happened. From the side of the room, a staffer motioned to Karoline. She paused, adjusting her papers. "We have a special guest joining us today," she said, her expression softening. "Please welcome Lucy Harper." The door opened and a small girl no older than 8 stepped inside. She wore a pale pink dress and clutched a worn-out teddy bear in her arms. Her blonde hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders and her blue eyes, wide with wonder, swept across the room. Karoline's face lit up with warmth as she bent down slightly. "Hi there, Lucy," she said gently. "Welcome to the White House." The room, often filled with the tension of political debate, grew quiet. Lucy approached the podium with cautious steps, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hi, Miss Leavitt." Karoline smiled. "You can call me Karoline. What brings you here today?" Lucy took a deep breath. "I wrote a letter asking if I could visit. My mommy says you're very important and I wanted to ask you something." Intrigued, Karoline knelt to meet Lucy at eye level. "Of course, sweetie. What would you like to ask?" The little girl hesitated, her small hands gripping the microphone stand. Then, with a quiet but steady voice, she asked, "Who is God to you?" A ripple of surprise swept through the room. Journalists exchanged glances, unsure how Karoline would respond. In the often cynical world of politics, personal questions like these were rare, especially from the mouth of a child. Karoline's smile softened as she considered her answer. For a brief moment, the political stage faded away, leaving only her and Lucy in the warmth of the spotlight. "Wow," Karoline said softly, her voice filled with admiration. "That's a big question, Lucy." Lucy nodded solemnly. "I wanted to know because..." Her voice trembled slightly. "My daddy says God takes care of us, but sometimes I don't understand why bad things happen." The room grew so still that you could hear the faint hum of the cameras recording every word. Karoline's heart ached at the child's honesty. She had fielded countless tough questions in her career, but none had pierced her heart like this one. "Lucy," Karoline began, choosing her words with care, "to me, God is someone who never leaves us alone. Even when things are hard or when we don't understand why things happen, I believe He's always there, watching over us and giving us strength." Lucy tilted her head, her brows furrowing. "But why do people get sad if He's there?" she whispered. Karoline reached out, gently placing a hand on Lucy's shoulder. "I wish I had all the answers," she admitted. "But I do know this, when things feel too heavy, we can always talk to Him. And sometimes He sends us people to love us when we need it most. Like your mommy. And I bet your daddy too." Lucy's lower lip trembled. "My daddy's in heaven," she said quietly. The words hit like a lightning bolt through the room. Karoline's heart clenched as she saw tears welling in the little girl's eyes. Without hesitation, she knelt fully and wrapped her arms around Lucy in a gentle hug. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," Karoline whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I know He must love you so much, even from heaven." The press corps, usually hungry for the next headline, watched in silence. No one dared interrupt the tender moment unfolding before them. When Karoline pulled back, she took Lucy's hand in her own. "Can I tell you something my mom used to tell me when I was little?" she asked. Lucy nodded, wiping a tear from her cheek. "She said that when you feel sad, you can talk to God like He's your best friend," Karoline explained. "And even if you can't see Him, He listens. And when your heart hurts, He sends people to help carry the sadness with you. You're not alone, Lucy. I promise." A tear slid down Lucy's cheek as she whispered, "Do you really think He's listening?" Karoline's eyes softened. "I know He is," she said. "And I bet your daddy is too." At those words, Lucy's face crumpled and tears spilled freely down her cheeks. Without thinking twice, Karoline pulled her into another hug, holding her close as the weight of the little girl's grief filled the room. The press conference, once focused on policy and politics, had transformed into a powerful reminder of the humanity that binds everyone together. And as Karoline comforted the heartbroken child, the room full of hardened reporters sat in reverent silence, witnessing a moment that would touch hearts across the nation. The following day, the moment between Karoline and Lucy had become the story everyone was talking about. News outlets across the country replayed the scene, and social media flooded with emotional reactions. Amid the media frenzy, a handwritten letter arrived at Karoline's office. The envelope was pale blue, and in the corner, written in careful cursive, were the words, "From Lucy." Karoline opened it carefully, unfolding the letter to reveal neat handwriting. "Dear Miss Karoline, thank you for talking to me yesterday. I was scared to ask about God, but you made me feel safe. I miss my daddy a lot. He was a soldier, and Mommy says he went to heaven to protect us. I hope he heard what you said. I talk to God more now. I ask him to take care of Mommy and my baby brother. Sometimes I still feel sad, but your words help me believe I'm not alone. Love, Lucy." Tears pricked Karoline's eyes as she held the letter close. She had answered countless questions behind the podium, but this one, from a little girl with a broken heart, had left a permanent mark. She knew she had to respond. That evening, as the snow continued to fall softly outside the White House, Karoline sat at her desk. She pulled out a sheet of official White House stationery and began to write. "Dear Lucy, your letter meant so much to me. Thank you for trusting me with your question and your heart. I want you to know that your daddy would be so proud of how brave and kind you are. I believe that God listens to every word we say. And just like I promised you, you are never alone. If you ever feel sad again, know that there are people who care about you, including me. With love and a big hug." Karoline. A few days after receiving Lucy's heartfelt letter, Karoline couldn't stop thinking about the little girl. Even amidst the whirlwind of White House duties, Lucy's innocent question, "Who is God to you?" lingered in her heart. It wasn't just the question itself, but the raw pain and longing hidden behind it. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low over the White House lawn, Karoline made a decision. She would reach out to Lucy, not as the press secretary, but as someone who cared deeply for a little girl who had lost so much. She picked up the phone and called her assistant. "I want to send a care package to Lucy Harper," she said. "Something personal. Can you find out her favorite things?" By the next morning, Karoline had everything she needed. With her own hands, she carefully packed a small box. Inside, she placed a soft plush bear with a golden ribbon, a children's book about courage and kindness, a handwritten letter. In the letter, she wrote, "Dear Lucy, I wanted to send you something special to remind you how brave you are. This bear is a hug from me to you whenever you feel sad. And this book is one I loved when I was little. It helped me remember that even when things are hard, kindness and love are always around us. I'm so proud of how strong you are, and I want you to know that I'll always remember your question. Keep talking to God, Lucy, he's always listening. With love and a big hug. Karoline." When the package arrived at Lucy's home, she was in the living room coloring quietly. Her mother, Emily, set the box on the coffee table with a smile. "Lucy," she said softly, "look what came for you from Miss Karoline." Lucy's eyes widened in surprise as she rushed to open it. Her fingers trembled with excitement as she lifted the soft bear from the box, hugging it tightly. Then she carefully unfolded the letter, her lips moving as she read each word. "She remembers me," Lucy whispered, "and she cares." Tears filled Emily's eyes as she watched her daughter smile for the first time in days. "Yes, sweetheart, she does." That night, as Lucy tucked the plush bear under her arm, she felt a warmth she hadn't known since losing her father. The words in Karoline's letter played softly in her mind. He's always listening. For the first time in a long while, Lucy closed her eyes and whispered a quiet prayer. "God, thank you for sending Miss Karoline. Please tell Daddy I love him." And as she drifted off to sleep, the weight of grief lifted. Just a few days later, the letter from Karoline arrived at Lucy's small home on the outskirts of Richmond, Virginia. The pale white envelope with the golden presidential seal stood out against the regular mail. Lucy's mother, Emily, found it first and called her daughter into the kitchen. "Lucy, honey," Emily said softly, holding the letter. "Something special came for you." Lucy's eyes widened as she spotted the envelope. She carefully took it in her small hands, her heart pounding with curiosity and hope. With slow, deliberate movements, she opened it and unfolded the elegant sheet of paper. As her mother watched, Lucy began to read Karoline's words. By the time she reached the end, her lips quivered, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. But these were not tears of sadness. They were tears of comfort. She clutched the letter to her chest, feeling as though the warmth of Karoline's words reached the deepest corners of her heart. "She remembers me, Mommy," Lucy whispered. She really meant what she said. Emily knelt beside her daughter, brushing a strand of blonde hair from her face. "Of course she remembers you, sweetheart. You touched her heart just like you touch mine every single day." Lucy wiped her tears and looked up with a new sense of confidence. "I want to write her back," she declared. And so, with her mother's help, Lucy penned another letter. A thank you note filled with gratitude and a child's pure belief in kindness. She drew a heart at the bottom and wrote in careful print, "I won't forget what you said. Thank you for making me feel not so alone." Weeks passed, and spring arrived in Washington, D.C., bringing with it the promise of new beginnings. One morning, as Karoline reviewed her schedule, a thought crossed her mind. She couldn't stop thinking about Lucy. The little girl's courage and honesty had left a lasting impression. With President Trump's approval, Karoline arranged for a special invitation to be sent. She wanted Lucy and her family to visit the White House again, but this time not as guests at a press conference. This time it was personal. When Emily received the invitation, she gasped in disbelief. "Lucy, you've been invited to visit Miss Karoline again, just you, me, and your baby brother." Lucy's face lit up with joy. "Really? I get to see her again." On a sunny afternoon in May, Lucy, her mother, and her chubby-cheeked baby brother arrived at the White House. Karoline greeted them personally, stepping away from the podium and the cameras to offer a warm hug. "I'm so glad you're here," Karoline said softly, her eyes bright with kindness. "I've been thinking about you." Lucy beamed, holding her teddy bear tightly. "I missed you, Miss Karoline." As they walked through the historic halls, Karoline showed Lucy the rose garden and even let her sit in the famous press briefing room chair. But the most special moment came when they sat together on a bench outside, away from the hustle and bustle. "Do you still talk to God?" Karoline asked gently. Lucy nodded. "I talk to him every night. I ask him to help me when I miss Daddy." Karoline's heart swelled with pride. "I'm so proud of you, Lucy. You're stronger than you know." Lucy's voice grew soft. "Sometimes I ask him to help you too. Because you're really busy and I want you to be okay." Karoline blinked back, tears touched beyond words. "Thank you, sweet girl. That means the world to me." As their visit came to an end, Karoline knelt once more to Lucy's eye level. "Remember, no matter where you go or what happens, you are never alone. You are always loved." Lucy wrapped her arms around Karoline's neck in a tight hug. "I won't forget," she promised. The story of Lucy and Karoline spread beyond the walls of the White House. People across America were moved by the unlikely friendship between a little girl searching for comfort and a press secretary who took the time to answer her deepest question. Letters poured in from families, veterans, and children who had experienced loss, each one sharing how the exchange had given them hope. Karoline, once known for her quick responses to tough questions, became a symbol of grace and humanity in a role so often marked by division. For Lucy, that day marked a turning point. She no longer felt so alone in her grief. Karoline's kindness had given her a sense of hope, a belief that, even in the hardest times, there were people who cared. Years later, as Lucy grew into a young woman, she kept the letters from Karoline tucked safely in a memory box. On the days when the ache for her father felt too heavy, she would read those words again and remember. She was never alone. And neither are we.